here with Matti from Beanflipper, and we're going to have a chat about all things Beanflipper and the return back from the dead, or however we want to call it. Mr. Matti, how are you?
I'm good. Yourself? I'm
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, not too bad, man. So um, it's all it's all happening now. It's all busy, hey?
It is a bit busier than I expected, actually. I seem to be the one that's drawn the short straw and become pseudo manager. So it's, I'll actually be glad when this little runs through for a while, just to have a bit more time to myself.
You're the media spokesperson.
Oh, that and the booking person and the putting shit on Spotify person and the putting
It's
stuff up on Bandcamp person.
it's pretty different, isn't it now? Like all those curveballs, like as well as interviewing people and doing a blog. Yeah, I got back into bands recently, and yeah, the whole kind of landscape's changed a lot, hasn't it, with all those things?
Oh, it's sort of easier and harder all at once. It's
Yeah.
really odd. There's like I found it interesting when I was trying to book a gig in Melbourne and how much pushback you get back on the, well, we need this amount of people to cover costs on the night. And I sort of get it. I get it that people haven't got the disposable income they had 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, I think, to some degree. So I get why pubs are really going, oh, we need people through the door though, because we've got staff costs to cover and whatever. But yeah, it is. There's that. But then the whole promotion online, it's a never ending, it's like a beast you have to feed. And the more you feed it, the more it just wants. And I mean, anyone that's good at content creation, I take my hat off to them because it's a hard job to make it look like you're not out there flogging something whilst flogging something. You know what I mean? Keeping doing the nice balancing on the balance of if you want to know that we've got this available, but you don't have to take that on board rather than going the full hard sale. And it's quite clever. The people that can do it well, I I actually admire because I just haven't got the energy for it myself. I find selling myself in general really cringy. It always feels like writing a resume to me, no matter,
Yeah.
it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's way different from you know, everyone knows a booker at the pub, and then you do
Yeah.
a shitty photocopied flyer, put some flyers up, and if you got a if you got a half decent lineup, like say the art house or that, you knew that you'd be fine. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a bit more word of mouth back in the day, wasn't it?
absolute,
It
yeah,
was like, I mean, I sort of did the management side of Beanflipper for the last couple of years of Beanflipper. And from memory, I didn't really have to chase much at the time. I used to just get people contact me and go, "Do you want to play this gig?" And me to be like, "Yeah, sure." Whereas now it seems very, I mean, I'm sure that does go on, but it's very official. It feels more official than it used to. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
mean, I contacted the Bendigo about gigs, and I got a 4-page PDF on, all the stipulations and everything. I'm just
yep,
going,
yep.
what? you know? I mean,
It's
I still get it. I mean, these venues have sort of hard up because people aren't going out as much, but still, it just was like, my God, this used to be someone you'd go, hey, can we get a gig here? Here's our demo,
yeah.
and you'd say, oh, we could roughly pull so many people, and they go, sure, here you go. I'll leave it to you. But yeah,
Yeah, it's a different. So B Flipper, they started around about 92, is that right? That'd be pretty accurate.
93,
Yeah, yeah.
93, yeah.
Yeah, um so they kind of I mean you were obviously part of it as in and I'll touch on that in a second about your kind of band history, but it was kind of part of that, Warp Spasm and Margrinder playing together. So I suppose it sort of come from the corpse of
Uh,
the
I
corpse of
don't
Warp Spasm, didn't it really?
It did come out of Warp Spasm. I mean, at the time I was in Mole Grinder, but
Bill, yeah, yeah.
from memory, I don't remember doing any gigs with Warp Spasm because I was in Warp Spasm for about a month.
Yeah, I was thinking that for some
And I
reason.
don't know if I can't remember whether I ever played a gig with them or just rehearsed with them because I used to live with Rocket and Dread.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I just ended up fighting with Dread too much musically, to which Dread got me. Dread said, they said goodbye, but I wasn't that fast. I was like, oh, well, that's that. And then I spent probably, I don't know, 3 months living with Dread, singing that Cosmic Psycho song at him constantly daily, going, you're out of the band.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah, it basically grew out of
yeah,
Rocket, Warp Spasm wound up, and then Rocket had Webby, was a mate from the country. Me and Dan joined, and Bucky was singing. I was going, who's the fifth person? Bucky. How could I forget Bucky? Yeah, so that was 93, and I think by the following year, we ended up swapping Dan out for Sean and Bucky out for Rick
yeah, yeah.
because Rick had not Rick, Bucky had lifestyle issues at the
Yeah.
time. And yeah, and I don't know. I like Dan as a guitarist. As a bass player, to me, he seemed like a guitarist moonlighting as a bass player
Yeah,
to some
yeah.
degree. And I was a little bit. I've always been the one. Me and Sean and Beanflipper have all been the ones that have always pulled it back from metal a little bit because.
Mm.
And so I wanted someone that could play more conventional bass, rock and roll bass playing. I think, yeah. And so we decided to do a bit of a personality change, personnel change.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, because and I suppose around that time in the 90s too, a lot of, they'd alternate from different bands and do different gigs
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. You know what I mean? That was quite,
Because at one stage, even Link Meaney's um, name went in the hat to sing for us, and then we ended up with Rick, who was in Wicker Man instead. I think Link was too busy, so
yeah, yeah. Wow.
which would have been weird. Would have been different.
Yeah, because I think I was gonna mention later on because you ended up playing gigs even with the meanies later on, so that's quite funny. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
Because I mean, that was the thing about that whole Richmond. It was pretty much that Richmond scene. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I mean, they lived. The Meanies' house was just round the corner from where Rocket lived in Lambert, or was next door to where Rocket lived in Lambert Street. My partner's mum lived just round the corner from there as well. Like it was so. There was so many bands. There was Damage was sort of Richmond based, and then you had all those bands that was sort of very Richmond GB based.
yeah. I was gonna say Lord Street wasn't too far away anyway, was it? There was that was the other kind of hang too, wasn't it? Really?
Well, there was that. Also, there was Ed Brown and Thingy had the rehearsal rooms down in Abbotsford. I can't remember what they were called, but that was a. I mean, a lot of bands used to rehearse there too, down by CUB.
Yeah, yeah.
It's bugging me that I can't remember the name of the rehearsal room. Oh, Duke Street Studios.
Duke
That's
Street.
right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they used to do gigs there occasionally.
yeah, yeah.
Because Paul Bianco, who was in, I think, the Glory Box, and then went on to be in Dog Boy, his dad was He was a photographer for schools. So he had the big seating arrangements, those seating
Yeah, yeah,
arrangements they
yeah.
have for big school photos. So they used to
Boy.
bring them along and put them out in the car park at the front of Duke Street Studios. It was quite funny, really. I mean, it was an industrial estate, so it didn't really matter. You
Yeah.
weren't really bugging anyone.
So
Yeah.
the band come about then, and what was kind of the initial aim of the band, do you think? Like you said, a bit something
Um,
different, like not sitting, Beanflipper's always sat in
well,
between, hasn't it, genres really?
I mean, yeah, I mean, Rocket, when I lived with Rocket and Dread, they were right into the whole sore throat, um, napalm death, extreme noise terror, Godflesh, that whole sort of
UK
crusty
crust.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas I was never really. I mean, I was into punk rock in the 80s, in the early 80s, and into hardcore. But by the time I lived with Rocket and them, I had a job at Penguin Books, and I was more into just dirty rock and roll and anything, but I think I was in the outfit. Then I left the outfit, joined Mole Grinder, and that was the first time I played anything that was remotely sort of metal based. And then I joined Beanflipper, and it was sort of a big learning curve because I was always like, I'm never going to play grind. I fucking hate grind. It has no
Yeah.
beat. It's just bore. But I swallowed my pride and just did it. But I mean, I always strived in Beanflipper too, not as far as drum beats went, not to make it atypical of what I'd always go, no, I'm going to do halftime while you work, while the guitars work out more than instead of the drums, guitars, and the bass all going at once. Let's section it into bits. So, I mean, it was weird. I was listening to one of our songs the other day, like Fault off the first album, and it's almost like Pearl Jammy sort of grunge era style music, but just tuned to C sharp, drop tuned to C sharp. Like I was like, a few of them have got bits in them, and I go, man, this is so grunge. Or
Yeah.
it was a weird mix. It was, I mean, we sort of wanted to play heavy, but I think we were just influenced by all kinds. I mean, Webby was a big Pearl Jam fan. He used to like doing Pearl Jam impersonations. I know that much from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I mean, we were all into stuff like Caius.
Yeah.
And the rest of them were into more heavier stuff than I was. I mean, me and Sean were more into more rock, not rock, but alternative rock and heavy, hard, rocky sort of stuff, more so than metal. But I mean, I mean, Rocket was winding me up the other day because I did an interview with Heavy Mag, and I said I'm not really a metal guy, and I was showing Rocket the other day that I have a Sodom 12-inch that I bought in the mid '80s that I looked up online that's worth about $800 or something.
Wow.
Part of me was like, well, maybe I might sell that because I don't reckon it's been on a turntable in about 30 years. Like, I actually bought it more out of the ironic humor in it with the
Yeah.
names like Angel Ripper and Grave Violator and stuff. That was more, I bought it for the humor, really, more than anything. And he's going, how can you say you weren't into metal when you own that? And I was like, well, I sort of dabbled, but, But yeah, I sort of quite like how Beanflipper, especially the first album, and there's a lot of sort of almost American hardcore, like a bit of
Definitely.
a Bad Religion-y feel in some songs and a bit of that sort of stuff, which I quite like mix and matching stuff a little bit anyway, you know what I mean, with music rather than being 100% one way,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the era too was like a lot of. I mean, we probably remember a lot of good gigs at the art house mixed bills, like really
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
different,
yeah.
like way different kind of bands, and it wasn't even gigs at the GB. It wasn't that much of a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like it'd be
No,
like
no.
you'd play with like a melodic hardcore band and then a straight up, like a grind band or something, and then
Yeah.
it'd be or like Magneside or something, going to the kind of
Well,
power violence, you
if you
know.
look at Tri-Spate, they weren't really classifiable in any of those.
Oh,
It was heavy and it was sort of metal, but it was a lot of other things as well. Like, I mean, I think it was the era, like you're saying. I mean, look at Faith No More. I mean, they made it big in that era, and I was actually, one of their songs came on the other day when I was driving, and I was going, so bizarre that this was a huge hit, and I was just like, and because of the big 80s synth sounds in their songs, but
yeah,
the heavy guitar and stuff, and the bit of the ba-down, ba-down, ba-down bass lines as well. It was like sort of anything sort of in that era, anything heavy sort of went. And I think it's because effectively in the 80s, any decent music was driven so far fucking underground because just everything that was commercial was just utter dross
yeah, absolutely.
that when it did burst in the 90s, it just went bang, and there were no rules really. You could do whatever you like because everyone had been living in the shadow of no one, being underground. Because I love that Rollins quote where he goes on about all these people that think Nirvana came out of fucking nowhere. And it's like, no, years of bands in the 80s doing shit that no one knew about other than those in those scenes,
Absolutely, yeah.
And finally, all that bad electronic sort of just middle of the road 80s crap pop music died in the ass and it finally burst through.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, and that cross pollination, like you were talking about before, I think a great example is Christ Fade and Bloodduster because they really started, super grindy, almost
Yeah,
gore grind, and then they really towards the end got into that stoner and that rock elements in there as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
like way, like that definitely. And people kind of lapped it up. There was no like, oh no, I'm not listening to this or whatever. It was too, so.
Yeah, I think
It's
it was quite odd too because I noticed after we split up, it was almost like drop tune metal made it big in the early 2000s. Like it started to make its way into the commercial sphere. You started to hear it in advertising and all kinds of shit. And I was like, my God, like 8 years ago, 5 years ago, advertising would never have gone, yeah, let's put on some really aggressive music to sell our product. They wouldn't have done it, but it was interesting.
It is. So what? So the purpose, because it was, the scene was pretty healthy. So was it really just making music for kind of your own satisfaction in terms of like stuff you
Yeah, pretty
enjoyed?
much.
Yeah,
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, I mean, we didn't really. I mean, as a band, the only band we really listened to and loved a lot was Caius. Really, like that.
yeah,
That was the whole. I wish we could play some songs like them, but it sort of never really eventuated to any great deal. It's sort of influenced in there, but never really. We never went down the full stoner rock path. But yeah, it was all just about doing shit our own way. I mean, we were. Oh, I mean, I always say, and we've got this saying going around the band at the moment that Sean came up with. It was basically, what was it? Beanflipper, proudly underachieving for the last 3+ decades, which was sort of, which made me laugh because as a unit on stage, we're such a tight unit and can focus it. But off stage, we're a fucking bin fire of dysfunction, like trying to organize the other four of them. It'll just go round and round in circles, like so we didn't really have an agenda. We used to get together and play music because we loved it, I think. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
really like there was never like, oh, we can't play that because that's not who we are, or we never wanted to sound like anyone to any great degree.
Because you threw a lot of stuff into that blender. I mean, there's, as you mentioned, there's hardcore, there was grind, but there was also, I think there's a bit of even funk in that in there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like in the, it all kind of,
Well, we're doing at the moment. We've been rehearsing up Blinding Sun for a certain event that's coming along.
yeah, yeah.
Get someone else to sing for to help to sing a bit.
Oh, is
And
that
I
from the
was
demo? That's
playing
from the
it.
demo, even, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also on. It's also we re-recorded it with Buck and Rick,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Garden Variety Manic Depressant. But I was playing that the other day, and I was going, man, the beat in that is so sort of that mid 90s heavy funk sort of thing where
Yeah,
it's metal meets funk, a bit like Rage Against the Machine, all that sort of bouncy shit. And I was, I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, there's a few of them I've listened to lately, and I've just gone, man, these songs aren't metal at all. Like they're
yeah.
they're heavy, but they're not metal or punk really. They're some weird hybrid of all three.
And
So yeah,
look,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
And I was going to talk about hybrids because the other album, Garden Variety, has got to be the most mixed personality, schizophrenic. Um, like I love it, but like it was, it seems quite chaotic. Like I love
yeah.
it as
Well,
well, but it really.
it is.
What's the difference between those two albums? What do you
It's
think?
well, it's interesting because I think because we're this time around we're just doing the first album,
Yeah, yeah,
and I've sort of got to re-know that album really well. And recently I was listening to Garden Variety Manic Depressant, and I was finding it quite like in the back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm glad we sort of aren't doing this album this time round because this would take a shit ton more rehearsal to get to know. Like they're not super hard, but it's weird that it's a bit more. I suppose it is a bit more metal, that album. Like it was
Yeah,
a bit
yeah.
more like we were more on a heavy trip at the time. So, and I think that was because Rocket writes all the songs. So I think it was Rocket's evolution of as a
Mm.
guitarist, basically. Like he wrote all the music basically. So I don't think anyone else. No, he did write every. They're all
Wow. Yeah.
He's like the James Hetfield of Beanflipper,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rhythm guy that writes everything.
Yeah, I mean, it was yeah, pretty different, but I think it was, yeah, it definitely, I mean, even when you compare it to even what's the other EP Road and Ulcer as well,
Yeah, yeah.
it's quite a bit of difference between, but as you said, that's a progression with the sounds that were around at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what drove that. I think it just evolved like that, basically. Like, I don't think we sort of, because it's bizarre. We had a whole third album to record, but because we're on the same label, we're on Shagpile with, and so were Frenzal Rom. And I think in '98, in around August '98, I was hassling Shop going, can we record our third album? To which they replied, oh no, um, Frenzal Rom are the only band for the remainder of the year that are going to record. You'll have to record next year. And then, unbeknownst to me, that was probably September was when we broke up. We did our last gig on grand final day on '98, and Rocket had no Webby had a broken arm, so there's only four of us on stage, and it was the biggest. It was the worst gig we ever did. Really, I mean, that was the thing that always got me with Beanflipper. Like, I can't remember, even rehearsals weren't that painful. Like, a lot of the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
you just rock up and it'd just happen. Whereas a lot of other bands I was in, some rehearsals you just spend the whole 3 hours going, oh, this is pain. But
Yeah.
I mean, we even had an occasion once when we played at Joey's in Paran, the
Yeah, I remember that.
road, where me and Sean put his bass. They had a curtain there, and Sean's put his bass on the drum riser before I finished setting up. So I've got cranky with him. He's got cranky with me. He's used the head of his guitar to hit a stubby off the top of the head of his bass on his bass head. It's flown across the stage, hit the wall beside Rocket. Rocket's then gone off and gone, you could have got glass in my guitar neck. To which then Webby's turned round to me and Sean and just gone, if you two don't fucking pull your fucking heads in, I'll smack you both out. And as he said that, the curtains rolled open and we've all
Ah!
gone. And then I've just counted acid in. And by the end of acid, we're all laughing at one another because of how ridiculous it was. Like, it was one of those bands where it just seemed to always work on stage. Like, we'd
Yeah.
always just sink in as a unit and have fun with it. I mean, that was also part of why Beanflipper is like this. We never took it that seriously, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we took the playing seriously, but we didn't take ourselves seriously. It was just, let's get up there and blast out some good tunes and have a laugh.
Yeah, they're always, like good humored kind of gigs, but also hyper energetic, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
think you
yeah,
always play such I think the two bands at the time I'd say is kind of like Damage, which we know is another level because that's just like
yeah. Oh, God.
unrelenting. But I think them and you guys just played really kind of hyper and frank, you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
really an intense set. That's the word I'm looking for,
I
intense.
used to hate playing on bills for Damage to some degree, to start with anyway, just because of how fucking insane Matty Skits was.
Ah,
I
yeah,
just stand there, especially if we had to play after them. I'd be like, I don't want to get on stage after he's been up there. He's fucking insane.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and then after a while, I just was like, yeah, but you're not him. He's not you. Whatever, like you
Yeah, yeah,
just let
different
it go.
playing, different,
But
yeah.
early on and things, I used to be there going, oh my God, I got to play after him. He's fucking insane. Like a human fucking metronome.
Oh, yeah, yeah, crazy. And so how have the rehearsals been going? Because I did catch a couple of clips
Oh,
recently, and it does look it looks good. Like
it's
it
been
sounds
pretty good
great.
because, I mean, Kent approached me in late July last year and sort of put it forward, he was looking for someone on Facebook who was in Beanflipper, and I approached him and he proposed the idea to me, and I was like, Oh, look, I'll ask people. I haven't got a problem with it, but let's see what happens. I mean, if you'd asked me 2 years earlier whether Beanflipper would ever get back together, I would have went, not a fucking chance. Like, no,
Wow.
that's done and dusted. But then me and Rocket got together in November, I think. Oh no, even earlier, a bit earlier than that, maybe October. Tested out the set in two different rehearsals. We did half a set and half a set. And so we've pretty much been rehearsing since November now. Like there's been some breaks, but since what is it, June, May, April, probably since March, we've been rehearsing weekly, other than the odd week off here and there. So,
Wow.
which because as far as I'm concerned, if we're going to do this, I don't want to look like tired old dickheads. Like I want to be on form. So we've just it's been going well. It was actually a lot easier than I expected after not playing that style of music for God knows how long. Like a lot of the songs weren't even that hard to remember which is strangely is the first album's the oldest one, and the other ones
Yeah, yeah.
that were the easiest to remember. Like it's amazing how so much muscle memory works, how you'll be playing a song and you'll go, I don't remember what happens next. Oh, that's right. And it's just your body just does it without your brain even. It's been funny because I've been lately, and there's certain songs I keep having little blocks with, which when we first started rehearsing, I could do perfectly. And now I keep finding bits in songs where I keep going, how does that work again? And it's because I'm overthinking it. But as
Yeah.
soon as I master one, a bit of another song does it to me. So it's sort of annoying in a way. But no, it's been pretty easy. It's pretty energetic. Everyone's keen, so that's always good. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's
Yeah, I
been
mean, even in the rehearsals that were up, those little snippets, it sounded tight, and the vocals sounded great as well.
yeah.
And,
I know Rick's done a great job because he hasn't really done. I think he's been singing since Beanflipper, but he hasn't done much. I think in the last 10 years or so, hasn't done much metal. He's just mainly done his own stuff where he sings more conventionally. So he's for a while there. Rick was even going to rehearsal rooms on a Friday night and just rehearsing by himself, just to have a good scream.
wow.
So yeah, no.
Wow.
So he's pretty keen.
Because you've been doing a few different things, and I did listen to Jazz Siggy, which is really quite good. I hadn't
Oh, that's
I was
just me
curious
by
about what people had
myself.
done. It's a great listen. It's fantastic stuff.
It's sort of funny though. I find with music and art, like since Beanflipper's been come round again, I've sort of dropped doing any solo music myself. Like I sort of don't have the time or the headspace
Yeah.
for it. It's really weird, and I've noticed that where when I'm not in bands, I'm more visually art orientated, and then as soon as I'm in bands, the visual art takes a back seat, and then I
Yeah.
end up just playing music more so. You know what I mean?
Because you're
It's
are
like
you,
I've only got a certain capacity to be
to do,
creative.
yeah.
You know,
Because are you an illustrator or something? Did I
I'm a
imagine
graphic designer,
graphic
so
designer? Yeah, I knew there was I knew there was
and I
that
do.
connection.
I mean, I do a lot of shit just for the sake of it. Like
Pay the bills.
no, and also just I make art.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
digital mashups of shit just because I can. Really,
Yeah, yeah.
not for any great reason.
And
I think
obviously,
sometimes half the reason I want to be in a band is just so I have an outlet to make rock flyers for. Because there's no money in it. Like hardly any bands have money to pay you to make a flyer, so you just go, well, I'll get in a band and then I can be the dictator
creative
art
force. Yeah, that's it.
director.
And of course, I have caught Rocket in Parasitic Equilibria. I seen them, I think, last year, and that was fantastic. So yeah, he sounded fantastic. He's playing in that.
Yeah, we've actually since Beanflip has been jamming me, Rocket, and Webby with Webby on guitar and Rocket on. I mean Webby on bass, Rocket on guitar, and we're going to get Eggs into it from Dreadnought. Who sings for Dreadnought.
Yeah, yeah.
and we're going to get this. It's drop tuned to A, and we're going to get. We've sort of started rehearsing, but the Beanflipper's been in the way of doing
Yeah,
it.
of
Like
course.
this sort of stoner rock band that's drop tuned to A.
Wow.
So it's quite a. It's quite. That's even quite interesting, but that won't get legs, and I reckon until Beanflipper takes a break for a while.
Yeah.
Because the rehearsing every week is so intensive. Like you don't sort of notice it when you're younger, but every Saturday I'm sort of out the house nearly all day because, by the time I leave here at 10 and get home at about 5, because it's a get to Box Hill,
Yeah.
and you realise how much time it eats up. I mean, I'd be quite happy to rehearse weekly at nights, but it's not possible with everyone
The
so
distance and
far
all.
around Melbourne.
Yeah.
Like it just wouldn't. So, because I've actually quit bands before because they've rehearsed on weekends. Because I actually would prefer to do a weeknight because I think weeknights are boring half the time anyway. So
Yeah, no, it fills that
might
space,
as well
doesn't
go
it?
play some music. Like at
Exactly.
the end of the day, all you're going to do is sit on your ass and watch television. Otherwise, or watch a movie or something. So rather go out and play music. But I get it. As you get older, people's priorities change.
100%. So you've got Necrosonic because that was the big announcement. That was the kind of the road back, wasn't it? And then I think you've
Yeah.
got a Geelong gig as well. And then I think probably and then as after that's all done, probably more gigs will come up. But
Yes, we've got more gigs coming up. I can't say anything though.
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty exciting about the Necrosonic. That's a big yeah.
Oh no, I'm actually I was actually quite humbled by it when
Yeah.
we went when I got everyone said, yeah, I'd be up for that. And then we started rehearsing a little bit, and then I think we made the Beanflipper page, and then just the response to like that first video that I put up
Mm.
of all of us, our first jam in 20 years or whatever it was. And even on my own page, which I think in the end I made it non-private, but it got like 1,000 views or something on
Wow.
my page and 700 on the Beanflipper one. And the amount of messages I get through Messenger on the Beanflipper page, like people, it's quite humbling that people actually have this spot for us. Like they really, a friend sent me a screenshot of some group that's to do with EVs out in Croydon,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and someone even on that had said, "Oh, I see Beanflippers back together," and the guy goes, and the other guy replies, "Yeah, but they're only playing in Queensland," and part of me wanted to get in there and go, as if we're going to forget our hometown,
Yeah.
like
Give it some time.
I just can't say anything about it right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we spoke about how kind of when the time was started, it was definitely, like a bigger time of DIY and that. And we have
Yeah.
spoken a little bit how it's changed a little bit. Um, do you think the kind of kids are kind of too comfortable these days, or do you think it'll always be a mix of old and young that are going to kind of
Oh, look, I don't know if I'd class it as comfortable.
yeah,
I mean, there's so many bands in Melbourne now that
yeah, yeah,
and there's so many little micro venues as well. So, I mean, it's quite diverse out there. But yeah, there's not any. I think back in the day there was a lot more central hub type venues that were little scenes within themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas now it seems like, I mean, it's a bit like socioeconomically how everyone used to live in the inner city and then shit hit the fan and that whole scene got split out into outer inner suburbs and then further and further. So there's not people. I think it comes down to people not being connected as much as they were to some
yeah,
degree now. Like there's not the sense. There's a sense of community online, but there's not that local sense of community where, back in the day, you'd go for a walk in Fitzroy and you'd meet someone or someone from another band that you knew and stuff. I mean, to some degree, I think younger guys now have got it harder to some degree,
yeah,
easier
yeah.
in some degrees. but there's so much competition and there's so much. I don't know. I mean, I'll admit it with jazz Siggy, it's a bit navel gazy. So there's so much of that sort of indulgent. I mean, in the 90s, if you wanted to be a solo recording artist, you had to spend thousands of dollars on old gear to do that. These days, it's just a Scarlett USB interface and
Yeah.
set of speakers and a laptop, and a guitar, and you're pretty much set, and a door. You're pretty much set, so you can pump. But in saying that, that means there's so much content now.
There is, yeah.
But a lot of it's media. It's really hard to flush out the really good stuff from the stuff that's not that good, I think. So I think it's to some degree they have it. It's easier for younger bands now to record, sure. But then it's like creating that space where people know that you exist is the hard bit, I think.
Yeah, they don't, yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know whether it's my age, but I'm starting to feel a bit bombarded by stimuli too much to some degree at times. You just go, oh, it's all too fucking much. Can just someone tell me what to listen to rather than trying to find it? So much shit it's, yeah.
No, you've got to put a filter, the filter to get through it. I get it from stuff people send me, and just even when I'm on Bandcamp, just to filter down what I really like. It's just
Yeah,
so,
I know.
like that's I find social media is like it's a sense of overwhelm because it's just like, and sometimes you're getting this shit that you're not even interested in. You know what I mean? And not
Yeah,
you,
totally.
so.
I'm a sucker on social media too for politics. Like I'm a bit of politics junkie, so I get distracted by that sort of shit
Yeah.
half the time. I'm more outraged about governance than I am about, and I waste too much energy on looking at that shit and not looking at creative stuff, which, by the time I look at creative stuff, I'm burnt out and jaded by reading how duplicitous most politicians fucking are in the West these days,
Yeah, that's certainly one thing that the world is not better in that way. There's a lot of content from it's a bit like a lot of thing that drove a lot of punk bands. There's a lot of you just listen to the news, and there's a lot of fuel for what you want to make. To make
Oh,
music and
I'm
write about,
amazed at
or
young. I'm actually amazed the younger generation aren't angrier than they are. Like seriously, like the world's going to shit.
yeah,
Like
yeah, there's-
and I'm sitting here sort of smugly going, well, I'm 60 this year, so I've got 20, 25 years, maybe 30 if I'm lucky. But my son just turned 25 today. He's got another 50 years of the shit
yeah,
show
yeah,
we have right now. And I actually don't know whether the shit show is going to last much longer. And we'll end up in some Mad Max style scenario where,
yeah.
you
It's
know,
possible.
you're not quite as dramatic as Mad Max, but that same sort of food shortages, water shortages, fucking, it's the world is not looking like a great place at the moment. That's my theory on why everyone's so into retro these days.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I don't want to look at the future because the future's scary as fuck. So
yeah.
let's mid-century
So
modern, yeah.
I always I laugh about that with my wife. Sometimes I see people with like the 20 somethings or 19-year-olds that have got the really bad fashions from the 80s, and that makes you feel old. You just think, oh God, how is, like you said, that cycle's come around, that all that terrible stuff is cool now.
But it's weird though because it's almost like there used to be a 30-year loop.
Yeah, yeah,
And it used to be like in the 80s, the 50s were very prominent in the look. Then the 90s, it was very sort of 60s, 70s. And then the early 2000s was the sort of Guns N' Roses rock
yeah,
star look where accountants looked like they were in some hot rockin' band when they were just an accountant because they got it from Dangerfield. And then post that, it's just like anything from yesteryear, whether it was yesterday or 50 years ago, 60 years ago, is now open slather. Like that's just pulled from there, and there. And then the 80s one cracks me up when people are retro in the 80s and you go, man, you weren't there. The 80s was ugly as fuck,
absolutely.
had bad music, bad fashion. there wasn't a lot going on in the 80s in the mainstream that was
Yeah,
very,
it was
very
the bad era, that's for sure. I was I was going to ask what Beanflipper track either gives you goosebumps still or gives you nightmares. Like what when you hear it, what or a super special track to you.
Sweet off the first album is a bit of a special one for me. I really quite like it just because it's got a sort of old school American hardcore sound to it, like that Southern California sort of hardcore.
It has, yeah, yeah.
It's still rock and roll more than heavy. Of the second one, Trent's song, I really like the one it's because it's a bit more of a 4/4 number for us, and it's got a bit of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
downstroking in it. But um, nightmares wise, I'd say the song on the second on Garden Variety Man Present, Never Want to Believe,
Yeah.
which was a bitch to record and turned out to be even a bigger bitch to play live. I think we only ever did it like 2 or 3 times live before we went, oh, that's too hard. It goes for too long and it's too hard. That one would give me nightmares if you asked me to play it right now, I'll tell you.
Yeah, yeah. A bridge too far.
So having said that, I did walk into this room recently and I had Garden Variety Manic Present on, and I was like, I walked in and I went, what's this? I don't know this song. What is this? And then it changed into a bit of the song that I did remember. And I was like, oh. And at the time I went, fuck, I'm glad we're not doing that this time round. That
Yeah.
sounds like a hell of a lot of work.
It's a bit, yeah, like I said earlier, it's a roller coaster of an album, but I like it for that.
Well,
It's
I
pretty
think
kind of chaotic, in that way.
yeah, I
And
mean,
tangential.
the plan is this year to do, because it's the 30th anniversary of the first album.
Yeah.
And I think then after a short period of time, we're going to go into hibernation for a moment. And I think then we might, remount it next year. And I think next year we'll probably do Road and Ulcer and Garden Variety stuff more so than the first album.
And is there I know it's kind of early in the piece, is there possible new songs in the ballot?
Uh, I don't know. That's a
It's hard
tough
to say
one.
yet, yeah.
It's a tough one to do because I mean, at the moment we're just in rote learning mode where we're just
Yeah,
going
yeah.
over the songs. And I think because it's been so concentrated and we're focused on playing these gigs, because there's probably a little bit of underneath it all, there's probably a little bit of nerves as well.
Hmm.
We haven't really relaxed up enough to even
Contemplate.
jam that much. We don't really.
Yeah.
We used to be. In the 90s, we used to mainly start a lot of rehearsals with like a 20-minute making shit up on the spot, jamming, and then we'd start the set just to warm up. But it's been this time around. It's been very much about let's get to business, like
Yeah.
acid, the set, finish, acid, the set, finish, go home, sort of thing. We've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
2 sets, so possibly. I mean, Rocket's probably the one to talk to about that because he's the one that's in like 2
He's the main
bands.
writer,
He's the one
yeah.
that used to write most. He wrote it all. So maybe he might end up. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the songs that he has go to Parasitic Equilibrium.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I sort of. I mean, at the moment. At the moment, I don't consider Beanflipper a fully back together band in a weird way. I think it's more we've just got back together to play some shows to see if we've still got it. People
Yeah.
obviously want to hear it, so we're keen to play it. I mean, I have missed playing the songs. Like there is a side of me that when Beanflipper broke up, I spent years searching every band I'd join after that. I'd go, has this got the spark? Has this got the spark? That because Beanflipper is the only band I've been in that's had that a spark that right from the
Yeah.
moment it clicks. Whereas most bands, you have to, you have to work at getting it into a unit, and sometimes it can take one song, sometimes it can take half a set, and sometimes it doesn't even happen some nights, and So it has been fun getting back together again and doing that again. But yeah, at the moment I think we're just going to get together, play the songs, have some fun, and who knows, maybe next year when we do remount again, you know, we'll maybe look. I mean, there has been talk of recording. I know Rocket was sort of keen on recording a few of the demo songs because the recording's so old. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe something could come of that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, it's annoying that the whole album that we were supposed to record for Shagpole, the third album, um, other than a song Mixo, which is on that live CD or that live
Yeah.
recording I put out recently, that's the only song. And we had a whole album's worth of new material that were playing in the night in probably 98 and
Mm.
late 97. They were probably songs from that album that were in the set. But for the life of me, none of us can remember any of it other than that Mixo song, and that's only because it got recorded at that live gig. Other than that,
Wow.
I can't. We're like, because I remember that the third album was gonna be. There wasn't so much thrash on it. It was more metally stoner groove
Oh,
based,
yeah, yeah.
but it was sort of still Beanflipper, but it
Yeah.
was a bit
Got that
less.
personality, yeah.
Yeah. It still had that sort of manic energy to some degree, but so I mean, it'd be funny. I mean, I'd love to find a fucking cassette of that. There is a cassette of them, but I think it's a shit recording. It'd be nice to, I don't know, try and remount some of them maybe because they were never recorded.
Yeah,
But
because I think people forget around that time there wasn't, unless it was like I'd been in bands as well around the 90s, and unless it was like a set that recorded, from the desk or something, if it
yeah,
was any extra things, you wouldn't have those recordings, you know what I mean? Like that's just
no, because it was
they're
just a
gone, you know
tape
what I
deck.
mean? You didn't have the money all the time. If you did, you'd record an album or an EP.
Yeah.
That'd
I
be it.
know.
You didn't have these, secret tapes hidden away somewhere. You know what I mean? Like that's,
And you'd have to say, I mean, you'd have to save up shit. You'd have to play gigs and
yeah,
not get paid for them for fucking months before you get the money to record. Like, it was actually quite a big deal to even just do a demo to some degree.
yeah,
Like, you'd be like, yeah, we're saving up to do a demo. Whereas these days, I mean, I know a lot of bands do the thing where they just do the tracking, they do drum tracking in the studio, and then they just do the rest of it at home, which
yeah.
I can understand because time is money and studios aren't cheap. They're probably a little bit cheaper than that. I mean, they used to be ridiculously overpriced. I mean, there's probably
Yeah,
harder to agree.
yeah. They still want a lot of money. Like even a current band that I'm in, we because we don't have we don't have a drummer because we lean into that kind of God flesh stuff. So we use
Yeah,
recorded drums, but we recorded everything in the rehearsal space and then sent it away to a guy even overseas to mix and master it. So because
yeah.
otherwise it was they were wanting 500 bucks a track to mix it. Like it just if
Yeah,
you're no one's got that you haven't got that money unless you're some band that's doing booking big gigs or something which doesn't kind of
even so.
exist.
I mean, I mean, the thing with music is, especially with this sort of genre of music, you're not really going out there looking for money. You're just doing it for the love of it. And most of the time, it's just self-funded, really, isn't it?
It
Or
is, yeah.
if you're lucky enough to play gigs and make a decent amount of money, you can save that money. But yeah, it's otherwise, you have to make do with what you can do.
Absolutely. What do you think Beanflipper's legacy or impact is on the Australian scene? Because there's obviously a huge amount of interest that you've garnered from I was around that time, but I know from what you're talking about the kind of internet excitement and that. So what do you think the impact or kind of legacy of the band? Even though you're still going, so it's not a done thing, but
Yeah, that's actually a bit of a tough question. I mean,
yeah,
it was quite odd because I mean, when we were, I think the manic energy of it, even though it's not that at times it's not that manic, but it is. It was interesting because we had a little bit of a rough road with Rick for a little while there earlier this year, where we were wondering whether he could do it still because he sort of went MIA for slightly. And then we'd almost lined someone, well, we had lined someone else up to do it, but at the last minute, he was like, oh, look, please let me do it. And we're like, oh, sure. Because it didn't feel right. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I wanted it to be the five of us,
Yeah,
not four of us and someone else. Like
yeah,
it doesn't seem quite right. But it was funny. I was listening to the live CD and contemplating what Rick's like in the studio and rehearse, and I was like, and there is a certain Rick does add a certain totally berserk sort of vibe going on. It's like it's a bit like someone having a breakdown in front of you to some
yeah,
degree.
yeah.
Like it's very So I mean, I don't know whether that's our legacy. I wouldn't know if but I think our legacy is what I mean. I always said Beanflipper were a far better band live than they were recorded. Like on a good night, I'll say this about myself, but on a good night, I reckon we used to fucking kick some major ass. Like
Absolutely.
it just had a certain purity to it that just, like I said, I've searched for years. And in the end, I've decided that the best thing I could do was give up searching for that. If it happens, it happens in other bands. But so I think our live rep probably is our legacy to some degree. I mean, recording wise, the recordings are good, but
Mm.
I think as a live band, we were 400% better than those recordings. Like I wish to some degree that I don't think we ever captured that energy in our recording. Like we almost got there, but it didn't just have that, that, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's really hard to
Hard to
capture that.
capture it. Yeah,
I mean, especially if you're doing tracking, because it's like this whole you do you bit.
yeah, yeah.
Live recordings. I mean, I've done live recordings with more mellow bands that I've been in, and it's a fucking nightmare. It's like everyone has to be happy with what they just did. So you can do the song over and over again, which in a strange way you lose that essence as well because you're too busy going. I mean, I've never been a great fan. I hate recording myself. It's like that whole playing while analysing, thinking, yeah, but not fuck it up, but not. No, I won't do that right now. I'll just keep it rather conservative, because I don't want to reach for that and then force everyone to do the song again. Especially I think drummers, when it comes to tracking, get the shit deal as well
Oh
because
yeah.
every time you fuck a song up, you know that you have to put every member of the band through the pain of doing that song again. So if you have to do a song 6 times, you've forced the singer to sing it 6 times in a row, whereas everyone else just gets to sit in the control room and go, do, actually start it again. Do, start it
Yeah.
again. And all the only person that's really inconvenienced is the engineer because they've got to go rewind and record. So whereas as the drummer, you always know that everyone has to be there with you to do it. So I find recording very stressful. And I
Mm.
think that's why it's really hard to capture some bands what they're like live in a recorded thing because you don't take the same risk. I mean, live you take risks where you just go,
Yeah, big
oh, what
time.
the hell? If it falls apart, it falls apart.
Yeah, yeah.
That'll be funny.
No, no, no. That's the
I'll just
beauty of it.
I'll drop a beat and I'll add one later on, and then we'll just call it jazz for a second there.
Yeah. Bit of improvisation, that's all right.
Yeah, as long as it all syncs up again at some stage before
Yeah.
the song finishes, you're home and hosed.
Yeah, I think what you touched on, because I think that live recording you put out recently, it's great.
Yeah. Well, it's because I mean it's a live gig, so you're not concentrating on whether you're going to fuck up or not. You're more in the
Yeah.
moment, just going, yeah, enjoying yourself.
Yeah, because it definitely captures that energy. Like that kind of took me back
Yeah,
to that kind of energy. Like it's as skanky as a place it was, like the GB, but the GB had some amazing gigs around that time. That was just that dark, but it was really kind of quite off the rails gigs were there. You know what I mean? Like the energy, what you're talking about.
yeah. I mean, I used to love playing at the GB. That used to be a classic place to play at. I reckon
Yeah,
it was one of my faves. The live recording's interesting too, because we've sat on that since like '97. Like Ernie, who used to be our sound engineer and also did Road and Ulcer and Garden Variety Manic Depression,
Yeah, yeah.
who mixed them. He ran Apollo Sound Studios in Coburg, and I think that gig was a like a benefit gig for a record label,
Oh, wow.
Subversive Records, I think it was, or
Yeah.
something. And so that every band on the day got recorded because it was in the foyer of the recording studio. And we sat on that recording, and I got in touch with Ernie recently, and I just said what about credits for it if I was to put it out? And he said, "Oh, when do you want to do it?" And I said, "Oh, no, in the next couple of weeks." And he goes, "Well, leave it to me. I want to remix it." So he
Oh,
actually
wow.
remixed it and remastered it. I don't know if he remixed it or he just remastered it, but it's a shit ton better than the original version. And plus, the original version had, you know how Beanflipper used to like to fuck around between songs and the
Yes.
all kinds of bullshit talk and stuff. I mean, I know there's one bit where me and Sean and Webby have some stupid surf jam between songs, and all you can hear is Rocket going, "Shut up and play the fucking song," in a grumpy mood because it was the end of the night. And Ernie actually this time went round and cut a lot of that shit out
Ah, yeah, yeah.
because it was just like, and in retrospect, I was like, yeah, I don't really need to hear that now. That's really boring. Like, that was just us being indulgent wankers, basically. Yeah, just, probably me recovering as well. I've actually been quite astounded that we're actually, as a band, for once playing the set like song, 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 little bit of a gap, song, 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 little bit of a gap. Whereas before it used to be like song, me having a drink and trying to breathe, and then, someone making a noise, a quick jam. Like there used to be, I reckon we used to do at least 3 minutes between each friggin' song at times. And like we've actually got a little bit better at just getting on with the business rather than,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it probably because we've all been playing for a lot longer now as well,
Yeah.
So techniques have improved, I suppose.
Well, it's been great chatting to you, and I think it's these gigs coming up are going to be great, and then we look forward to when the Grand Melbourne tour will be
Oh yes, that will be.
lining up because you've got so far just the two dates announced, but more forthcoming. That you
Yeah,
can't reveal as
I'm
yet.
hope I'm hoping to organise a gig in for South Australia, but I have no idea on who to contact, or I have some vague ideas on pubs, but it's more who to play with over there. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
in there. I'm just going, who's in that middle scene of punk rock meets metal? Like I don't want to go
Yeah,
full
yeah.
metal, and I don't want to go full punk rock. I sort of want to do mixture of both,
The
but
middle,
I
yeah.
don't know bands over there, so might have to play that one by ear. But that, yeah, because I've got the amount of people in messages that keep giving me a hard time. Are you coming to South Australia? Are you coming to South? Are you coming to Sydney? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I can't say anything right now. Someone asked me for playing Melbourne, and I said, he goes, "Are you guys going to play Melbourne?" And I said, well, I can neither deny or I can neither deny or accept that comment or whatever. Like basically, just wait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna happen. So yeah.
I don't want Kent going because I had a word with Kent and I told him about our date in Melbourne, and he was like, "Oh, can you hold off telling people?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, mate. Since you're the catalyst for this, I'll give you that because
Yeah, yeah.
basically because I mean." I actually, we actually owe a lot to Kent for actually being the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
that got the ball rolling. And actually, we were like, because if, like I said, if someone had said to me 2 years ago, "Would you ever get back together again?" I would have went, "Well, I doubt it," But all it took was a little bit of money and air flights and accommodation, and
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
was like, "Sure."
Ah,
Because
that'd be fantastic.
oh, it's going to be fun. I'm actually looking forward to someone's birthday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Coming up. Yeah.
That I'm not playing at.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
I'm, but I'm looking forward to
Lots of
that.
catch
I
ups.
think
Yeah.
I have a feeling that we're actually at the moment we're tightening up like a screw, and that's going to have like a spring, and that's actually going to be a nice retention relief because
Yeah.
at the moment it feels like a hell of a lot of work with no. Because I said to one of the guys last week, I said, "Oh, makes me want to get people into the rehearsal room just to see us. Like I'm so sick of rehearsing, and it would be nice to have a reaction
A
to
bit of
what we're
reaction
doing."
and some feedback.
And the
Yeah.
rehearsal room's so small, it's like, well, who are you going to get in there? Four people? Because that's really going to be a bit weird, you know? Four people standing around going, yeah.
Maybe you could do the acoustic set in the Burke Street Mall. Beanflipper acoustic.
It was a bizarre story. We were rehearsing the other day out in Box Hill, and I actually had this Beanflipper t-shirt that I've made that I've got to get onto merch. And the guy said to me, everyone else had gone home and I was packing up, and I walked out, and the guys from the room across from me, it was just a guitarist and a drummer, and he goes, "Tell us about them." He looked at my t-shirt and he goes, "Oh, Beanflipper, cool." He goes, "Tell us about you guys. Like you're a bit death metal at times, you're a bit black metal at times, then you're a little bit American hardcore at times. Like, what's the deal? What's the band?" And I then started explaining that it was Beanflipper getting back together again. He was like, "Oh, really, man? I saw you in the early 2000s, around there when you played at the Art House or something." And I was like, "Fucking hell! It's such a small world." Like in Box Hill, like it was like, and they weren't my vintage. They're at least 20 years younger than I was. So I
Yeah.
was like, "Man, you must have been 20s, early 20s when you saw us in, because I think we played 2004, 2005. We did some in that about a year. We did gigs in that period
Yeah.
because of our pathetic, because I hassled everyone out because of our
To come
pathetic
back,
last
yeah.
gig. I went, we can't leave on that
On
fucking
that.
gig. That was a shit gig. We were terrible. I mean, Rocket was really drunk as well, and it was me and Sean holding the fort, which so like I said, it's been
Lots of things to
quite
look forward to.
exciting, and I'm actually looking forward to a bit of a release, and I hope people now still like us live. I mean, that haven't seen us. That's the other thing.
I think they won't. Yeah, they won't. If any, even just from those little rehearsal snippets, you can see it's the what you were talking about before. The magic is still there and that spark. So I think once it's actually in a live venue with lots
Yeah,
of rowdy punters, I think it'll be
and
great.
I'll have to do that thing I do where I have to think, just play the songs slower than you normally would, because otherwise I'll end up playing them about 25 or
Yeah.
30% faster, and I'll probably by the middle of the set be going, "I'm gonna die."
Intermission break.
I know. I know. Well, the singer gets one of them because we have an instrumental in the middle of it, but no
Yeah.
one else does. Damn it!
Oh,
All
that's
right,
good.
I'm gonna let you go.
All right, thanks for your time. I'm gonna hit stop now, and I'll put the dates on there as well. So yeah, thanks again, Maddie. No worries. I'm just gonna
No,
stop
no,
now.
it's good to.